I'm Lorena. I'm a nurse, I'm a mum, I'm a carer, I'm lots and lots of things, and I have a disability. In the 2000s, I met my husband. I took on 3 stepchildren, and I also got my master's degree during the 2000s. I also lost my mum, who was only 54, so it was a difficult time, but we got through working together. 2015 is probably the key marker point for me where it became very turbulent in my life. My dad became very, very unwell, and I became a carer rapidly for my dad. My mum-in-law died. We had lots of family illnesses. There was all sorts of stuff for my son's school and work, CQC, lots of other things happening. Became ongoing stress. There was just a prolonged period of stress. And when I reflect back now, thinking about my disability, I think I link it to some of that prolonged stress period during 2015. And it was in 2017 that I started to feel unwell. And it was a strange unwellness and a fluctuating unwellness. And I thought I had a brain tumour, and I was really, really scared. But I took the step. I went to the GPs. I didn't frequent the GPs very much. And they were very responsive, but spent a whole year going through tests of every nature, some of them involving tubes, I have to say, some very difficult tests. And in 2018, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is my disability, which at the time I never recognised as a disability, I have to say. That's come over time. I am still learning to cope with, understand the impact of me. I hate it sometimes, I laugh at it sometimes, I struggle with it a lot of the time, but it is part of me now. There's no getting away. I think in the first year, I sort of thought, oh, it'll go away, this. And actually at periods, it did go away. That doesn't happen anymore. I have a low level of symptoms all the time with flare-ups. So it has become part of me, it is part of me. And I suppose that's the journey of who I am and sort of that part of my disability and how I got to where I am. So it's still early days, 4 years, only 4 years. So the strengths I think that I bring to my work, I suppose the first one for me is the personal experience of disability. And a new disability, I would say. Some people are born with disability, but for me, I wasn't. I was high functioning, and so I bring that personal experience into my work, and the personal experience of caring as well. It has really opened my mind to being a receiver of care rather than a caregiver. So in my job, I give care a lot of the time. I love giving, absolutely loving. I find it hard to receive. And it is a unique experience, but I think I'm able to integrate that into the work that I do. So it's given me a different perspective on it, having a disability, living with a disability, how that translates to my work. I think my strengths are kindness. I think I'm organised. I've got a very, very strong memory, which is very interesting alongside my disability because my disability affects that. So that constant dynamic between, people see me as organised, but I do bring those strengths. I think I bring the strength of wanting to be open and honest and talk about things. And that's a really interesting thing when you have a disability, to be able to talk about it openly with other people that have disabilities. And I've always encouraged honesty and sharing of information, the wanting to bring people together. I'm a true advocate that we just recognise people for people, and we try to sort of drop some of the barriers that start to exist between patients, for example, and staff, or carers and staff. So I think they're the sort of the key skills that and strengths that I bring into my work that have been probably enhanced by having a disability. So the challenges and barriers that exist for me in my workplace related to my disability. There's several, and it's hard talking about this bit because it's the bit that makes you talk about your disability and the impact that it has on your life, both personally and in a work sense. And it's the bit I try not to talk about too much because it's upsetting, and I suppose that's one of the challenges for me, getting past the upset of having a disability or developing a disability so late in my life, and I don't want it. I absolutely don't want it. So that upset is a constant challenge for me. I generally, on a day-to-day basis, I'm okay, but when I flare, and that's what happens with my disabilities, I flare, my emotions flare as well, and the upset is greater. So that's a challenge when you're expected to be strong and you're expected to be able to run meetings. I'm in a leadership position, so there is a set of expectations that you put on yourself and that the service expects from you. So that, again, is a constant challenge for me. Can I do this? Can I do this to the quality that I want it to be, to the standard that's expected of me? So that is a challenge. So I am supported to do flexible working. But it's very, very hard to write a flexible working contract when you don't know how you're going to be the next day. And I think I've got a standard statement that came out of my occupational health referral, actually, that said, Lorena can do what she can do when she can do it, but she can't when she can't. Now, when you try to translate that into a flexible working contract, it's really, really difficult. And I think that the organisation have been challenged by that. But I think what has helped is the conversation, the openness, me being able to talk about my symptoms and how they affect me, and people listening to that. Again, I still think it needs to go a step further. The ideal workplace for me would be a greater awareness by managers who are responsible for looking after groups of staff who there are going to be people with disabilities. I've been a manager. I actually thought that I knew about Disability Act and disability law and all the other things, but then getting a disability myself and part of the work, I did not know. And I think there are, the ideal world would be to find ourselves in a position where managers who need to manage the people with disability, the staff group, have a greater awareness. I don't know what that looks like, but I think that would certainly be an ideal world.